Hi, everybody. It's Tamia, and welcome to the SyFy Sistas podcast, where we give you our point of view. Today, I'm joined by my sisters, Sabrina Wood.
Hey, hey.
And Yvette Blackman-Tom.
Hey, hey.
And we are going to discuss the women of color that hold the ship together. The ship together.
What?
Wait, what?
We're going to sing the praises of the unsung heroes, the woman of color who is actually the engineer who actually keeps saving the ship and duct taping and MacGyvering that bad boy back together so the whole crew can be safe all the time. And when we started thinking about this, our two favorite women engineers of two different franchises came to mind that we want to talk about. B'Elanna Torres from Star Trek and Naomi Nagata from The Expanse. And so in general, it's important, we thought, to do a show about these women because they're women of color who are showing their amazing capabilities through science and technology. But Sabrina, do you have any other reasons why we want to tell everybody why we wanted to do a show like this today?
Well, I think why I wanted to do these two is because they're fully drawn characters. They have a lot of backstory. They're not just the engineers. They don't just come up like, Scotty would just like fix those engines. And you didn't really know a whole lot about him. Naomi definitely has a great arc in Expanse, and B'Elanna, she did a lot of growing on Voyager. So I really enjoyed that whole thing. And I think this will happen. Both of these women deserve a whole podcast all to themselves. But today we're going to talk about them in their engineer suits with their little, pocket protectors with the little screwdrivers. That's how we're going to talk about them today.
And hypospanners.
And hypospanners.
Yeah. Those.
Exactly. So we know B'Elanna Torres. Most of us are familiar with B'Elanna Torres from Star Trek Voyager. And she was made the chief engineer on that. She was originally a member of the Maquis. General impressions of B'Elanna Torres. What do you think of when you think about B'Elanna Torres, Yvette?
Complicated, very complicated, but really smart. So smart she outsmarts herself sometimes. But yeah, I love that character. She's probably my favorite character on Voyager. I'm not a huge Voyager fan, but I do love the fact there's a lot of strong women on that show. Mm-hmm. But I really love B'Elanna because, like Sabrina said, she has a great arc. So everything about her is pretty awesome because she's not perfect. She's very fallible and she has a lot of flaws. I love that about her.
Yeah, me too. Sabrina?
Well, just as Yvette says, Voyager is maybe not my absolute favorite of the franchises. I love it. And I want to give a shout out to Say Chandrine, the fan group on Facebook, and my friend Cheyenne, for bringing me into the Voyager realm. I was sort of like, just going around in Facebook back in the day, just checking out some groups, and I fell into this one, and they started, listing all these episodes and talking about it. I was like, on Voyager? This happened on Voyager? All right, I got to go look at this again. So Everything looks a little different in binge mode. Yes. And I definitely developed a love for this show in binge mode, and especially B'Elanna Torres, because she just comes in there kicking and screaming, ridges blaring. The girl just got like no filter, and I loved it. And I loved what happened to her in dealing with the other women on this show, not the men, but the women. I find it very interesting. So when 7 of 9 comes in and Captain Janeway, and we'll talk about that a little bit, I really love the way they wrote those characters and that relationship, those two relationships.
Right. And for people who might not be familiar with Star Trek Voyager and the characters listed on there, B'Elanna Torres was half Klingon and half human. And she had gone to Starfleet Academy, but she dropped out. And when she dropped out, she joined the Maquis, which was a band of rebel fighters, depending on whose who's telling the story. They're either terrorists or they're rebel fighters, freedom fighters. And then when the Maquis crew was also stranded in the Delta Quadrant along with the Voyager crew, and the two crews melded. And then eventually, pretty soon on, B'Elanna was made chief engineer on Voyager. So that's a little summary of B'Elanna. I love her because I think she's so passionate and dedicated and purposeful, you know, like she was kind of hard-headed, but that served her purpose and so many times, you know. I mean, it was also, like you said, to her detriment. She's a complicated character, and I love that about her. She was not written in a simplistic format, in a simplistic way. She was a fully realized human being. So I love that about her. And what about Naomi Nagata? Naomi Nagata is the engineer on the Rocinante in the Expanse. She's amazing. Sabrina, go ahead.
I know. You know, this is as I just said about Voyager not, you know, being into that show when it first came out. I didn't even want to watch The Expanse when that first came out. So I knew nothing. People were telling me I was going to love it. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. And so I didn't get into the Expanse until 2020. You know, during the pandemic, it was just like, okay, let me just finally watch The Expanse, and loved it. I love Naomi Nagata. It's so different from Star Trek. It has such it has such a different way of telling stories and what they're talking about that I absolutely fell in love with it. And I love the grittiness, the realism. And Naomi is the bomb. I mean, she could just fix everything. You want to talk about a MacGyver. Now, that's one MacGyver.
Yes. So Naomi is self-educated. She grew up in a poor Belter family. If you haven't watched The Expanse, there are the Earthers, the Martians, the folks who left Earth to colonize Mars, and the Belters, folks who live in space and work mining asteroids. And they're basically the poor folks, you know. The Belters are the disenfranchised population of the future in The Expanse. And Naomi is one of them. She grew up... she was orphaned, and she was, like I said, she was self-educated, and then she earned multiple advanced degrees. You know, this woman knew how to run her stuff. You know, she is just no joke. You know, she talk about self-motivated and a will to succeed and a will to persevere and get better and grow. She's amazing. She's amazing. Yvette, do you have any general first impressions of Naomi? So, because Yvette is coming new to The Expanse, she agreed, wonder graciously.
Just so that we would have three voices in here, wouldn't be Sabrina and Tamia saying, "We love Naomi."
She agreed graciously to watch some Naomi episodes with us.
It was not very gracious.
I wasn't going to say it.
But yeah, I watched the first season episode 2, and then the finales, the last 3 episodes. It was I enjoyed Naomi's storyline. What I saw, she did remind me of B'Elanna a lot. You know, 5 seasons, so I was no way I was going to get that done in a small amount of time. But I do understand why you want to do something on her, because she does seem like someone I would want to know more about. She seems like she's very messy, got a messy life also, which is cool because that's how you make stories work. But the Expanse on a whole, it takes a lot to. I'm gonna have to watch more. I'm not gonna say anything bad. I'm just gonna say.
I completely understand. I tried to watch The Expanse 3 times before I got past episode 2, and the whole reason was the look of it, the tone. I wasn't getting it. It was
the
just
guy
like,
in the hat.
God.
Yeah.
No,
you annoyed the hell out of me.
Episode 2 scared the bejesus out of me. I didn't like how real it was. I like my sanitized Star Trek where people don't throw up in their helmet. They don't throw up in their evac suit. This doesn't happen. There's the inertial dampers and there's no
nobody gets
seatbelts.
space sick in
But
Star Trek.
I don't know if that was it because I kind of that was the thing that I liked about it, that it was very different from Star Trek, because I don't like shows that try to be like Star Trek. Star Trek is Star Trek, and that's it. So, but I did appreciate the fact that it was very different. But the problem was I just didn't have enough time to really get into it. Like once I start watching something, I want to finish it. So I think I was off kilter watching it because I knew I wasn't going to really be able to find out. But I do understand. I do understand why you would want to highlight this woman, because she was, of everything I saw, I mean, she did the thing, she saved the ship, so she really did.
We're just going to put the big E on this one. That's
right. So she saved the ship, the friends, the other ships. She knew what she was doing, and the way she did it. I mean, I hate to do spoilers. I don't know if anybody's seen all of this, but I mean, she jumped out of the ship. When I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm a fan. Maybe not a fan of the Expanse, but Naomi.
And
that's not the only time she jumped out of the ship.
If we could, right, that's not the only time. But I knew that if we could get to that point, if we could show you that you would become a fan of Naomi Nagata.
You saw my face was like, oh, did she just jump out the ship?
Listen, I mean, she does some stuff. In fact, I would say, I think I like the Expanse so much because they have a plethora of strong women, and they're women of color in all through that show. And so I love watching it because you just never know what's gonna happen. I mean, Kamina Drummer is my other girl, but we're not here to talk about her. But we'll have to do a show about the Expanse because I love it. But going back to Naomi, the first time I saw episode 2, I didn't like Naomi because I was like, who is she? What is the world? Because she got up in Holden's face right from the beginning, and Holden was supposed to be the captain of the night shuttle. That was it. He was the
You would have never known.
No, Naomi was going to tell him, listen, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And it just got in his face. And she was right.
Yeah.
And
that was the great setup. That episode was the great setup for, and I'm, like I said, I didn't see the whole thing, but I could tell that was the setup for who she was. And it was showing you, her potential and what to expect from her. I think the line that I loved was she was telling everybody what to do. Like, I think she was telling them to get the batteries or something from everything. And she says, I'm sorry, were you expecting a back rub?
Yeah.
That's right.
Like,
yes.
They just all stood there looking at her. Nobody's moving.
I've definitely had to say that a few times because I deal with a lot of men, so in my job. So yeah, I've had to, I tell them what to do, and they just look at each other. I'm like, I have to make some kind of, I won't say it because human resources will come for me, but I'll say something, something like that. So.
Yeah, she just was looking at him like, we're about to die here. What are you all waiting for?
Right. Like, come on, you guys. I mean, I love that episode, too, because she really seizes control. And at that point in the game, Holden wasn't captain. There was no identified chain of command. And so she filled the void. She stepped up.
He was the first officer of the camp.
He was the first officer, but they weren't on the camp anymore.
No.
And he had just become the first officer on the camp.
And he wasn't even sure he wanted that. Holden being Holden.
Right, and he wasn't treating it seriously either. And so, Naomi, who had all this experience and time out there in space and grew up in space, knew the seriousness, recognized the danger of the situation that they were in, and was used to saying, like, hey, we don't have time to screw around. You guys get your heads out your butts. Let's go. and she rightfully took control of that situation and kept my favorite line was, "You're a medic, act like one."
Yes.
Shed is so gone. I mean, he's the first one to go off on ship. They had to give him a piece of gum or whatever that was. I know it was something to calm him down, but yeah, they had to give him something. They had to give him something.
I say, if you haven't watched The Expanse yet, please go back and watch season 1, episode 2, The Big Empty. Actually, go back and watch the whole thing. And actually, if you haven't even if you don't watch it, read the books. I'm telling you, the books for the Expanse, on which the show is based, are amazing. I mean, they're stunning. And a part of the reason why in my opinion, why early Expanse season 1, season 2 is difficult for people is because they are so faithful to the books, and you are bludgeoned with detail in this new world. It's a completely unfamiliar world, and you're trying to absorb all of it at one time. It's so rich in detail, and I mean the whole world is so fully realized that your eyes can't take it all in, and then you add on to that a new language, a Creole language at that. So it sort of sounds like you're hearing familiar sounds. They're put together in unfamiliar ways. The patterns and rhythms of the speech are different. It can be overwhelming. And that I had to watch early seasons of The Expanse multiple times. I still do. And I'm still catching stuff that I missed the first time around. But I recommend people to stick with it because the stories are worth it. The characters are worth it. The payoff is worth it. And the producers get much more adept at writing for television as opposed to writing a novel.
Right from the book. Yeah, I would agree with that. I agree with you, Boss Man.
Yeah.
Sasake, baby.
Sasake.
Yeah. I would still be a belter if I was out there. But going back to, I want to talk about B'Elanna for a second again.
That's where I wanted to go.
Yeah, because you said something, and I thought of this earlier when I was sort of going over my notes, and said that she, everybody always says it, and she says it too, that she got kicked out of Starfleet Academy. But she's a contemporary, pretty much, of Worf, right? She's in the same immediate time. They left Deep Space Nine. Worf was either coming or just about to get there when they left. So they're only, they're a few years apart in their Starfleet thing. And we know Worf is the first Klingon that went to Starfleet Academy. So she couldn't have been more than, the second, maybe the first. So I think, the fact that she dropped out of Starfleet Academy or, was B'Elanna had a problem. I think B'Elanna might have had a problem, but it might have been somebody else's problems on top of her problems. So I think she might have had a very hard way to go at Starfleet Academy. And I'm making this up. I don't know if there are books. I'm just extrapolating. But I just want to give, I just want to say, I think there might be more to it than she dropped out. Because we know she didn't flunk out.
No, she did not flunk out.
No, that's not what happened.
We know that she's already straddling these two very different cultures, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's half Klingon and half human, and so she already doesn't fit in anywhere, right?
So I'm just saying that there could have been some people there that were bad admirals.
I'm saying that amongst her peer group and amongst the people, not even admirals or professors. I'm talking about like on the day-to-day, going to eat in the cafeteria, or people, living with a roommate who's like so sensitive, like, why do you have to be so mean? Oh my God. I've dealt with that before just because I come from a place where people are very forthright. And then all of a sudden I'm around somebody who is not used to plain speaking. And all of a sudden you're hurting somebody's feelings. And you're like, oh, wow. I'm thinking that there was probably a lot of that going on too.
I'm thinking that it was a tip.
And also you have to realize with B'Elanna, she has a lot of self-hate. So
I
have that written down in my notes.
That is a big deal when it comes to, because everything I know about B'Elanna and Starfleet Academy is that she never failed a course. She almost failed one. So it wasn't even like she was even close to being kicked out. She was a star I think she was an athlete, and she was, she could have done it if she just stayed with it. So I don't know if she was actually had problems with anyone. I think the problem was mostly herself, where she doubted herself every time. Someone might have been hard on her, but they might have been hard on her because she was such a star pupil, or they were hard on her because she was a good athlete. Coaches are always hardest on their talented players. That's just the way. Well, me and Sabrina know, because we play a sport. The coach, if you're good at what you do, the coach is always counting on you, and then you internalize that. But I think, and then B'Elanna has a lot of issues with who she is. So I don't know if I go with the fact that she might have had people. I mean, I don't care who you were. You had people who were going to be, against you in an environment like that. That's an academy for, the best of the bunch. So everybody's competing. But being the best, because from everything I remember, she was the best. But she doubted herself because she really had a lot of self-hate. So I think she probably hurt herself more than anybody else did the hurting.
Yeah. And I think Janeway had a lot to do with bringing that out of her. I agree. That's what I meant when I said I love the way they wrote the relationship between Janeway and B'Elanna. Mm-hmm. Because there was I love the scenes, and there's one in Prototype where the two of them are just geeking out. They're just like, oh, you know what? We could do this. Yes, we can, how about, and you know what else? Oh my God. I think B'Elanna was telling the captain that she had done it, that she had created that prototype, and that it woke up and that it was asking for programming. And the look on B'Elanna's face was just, I freaking did it. And Janeway was like, girl, I know.
Right. It was nerd joy.
That's right.
I love that about two of them when they would get into their little technobabble scenes and just go off.
It was cool because you know how much of a scientist Captain Janeway is, and then to have B'Elanna be there with her, just enjoying that as two little girls, who love science. I thought it was a joy to watch.
It absolutely is. I wrote that in my notes too. Like every time we're starting to finish each other's sentences, mm-hmm. About like, and we could do da 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 and da da da. I was like, oh yeah, that's great.
And then the rest of the crew was just like, yeah, whatever. Okay.
They're looking at each other like, okay, all right. Whatever.
A creepy Vorik was probably around the corner going, yes.
I would have thought of that like in another 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, and because that started in Parallax in season 1, we saw that really clearly, the two of them geeking out together and vibing off of each other. But that was B'Elanna who was really leading the thought on in a unique and creative way on how to get out of the situation. That was the beginning of us seeing her MacGyver a situation and save the ship, the shit. Again,
Right, again. Well, that's what she was, a true Starfleet engineer, because that's what they do. How many times has an enemy said, I don't know who, you got one of those Starfleet engineers up your sleeve? I know they can fix anything.
That's right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It didn't matter whether it was the enemy coming at them or some anomaly.
Right.
So before we go too deep onto another tangent, I want to go back to what similarities did you all see between the two women? And what differences did you see?
One thing I loved about both of these women is that they were natural geniuses. They were not alien. They didn't have any enhancements. They didn't have Borg technology. They were just dead up smartest one in the daggone room. And I love that about them. They were both brilliant from the crib.
Mm-hmm. I love that too. Absolutely.
I like the fact that they were fleshed out characters. Smart women that were fleshed out. I mean, unfortunately, you only see that in sci-fi, it seems, but they were really, like Sabrina said, they were really, really smart, and they had a story. You know, we knew about their story. They were human beings or half human beings. You know, they were beings that lived, and we saw that, and they had these jobs that you had to be incredibly smart to have.
Yeah.
And I love everything about that. I mean, because you see that with the guys. I think Sabrina was saying with Scotty, he was the engineer. We knew he was the engineer, but that's all we knew. You know, I don't think we knew too much more. But these two women, and even the very little that I saw about Naomi, I did find out a lot about her. That she had a son, and she had, there was all kinds of stuff going on in that ship, and they loved each other. You know, she had a Holden was her man, or wasn't her man, was her man. They always pick these corny guys, though. That's the only problem I have.
Both B'Elanna and Naomi went for the corny guy. I'm like,
yes, what? They did. That is another similarity. They sure did.
Man, what is that about?
Those corny guys are really endearing, though.
They are. They really are.
I like the corny guys personally. You know, I mean, a lot of
those guys had their backs. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Definitely. See, I would agree with that because they definitely had their backs, and you need somebody like that when you're that strong.
And both of those guys, Tom Paris and James Holden, absolutely loved the fact that these women were smarter than they were.
That's right.
And they listened to them. They were like, okay, babe, what are we going to do?
Right. You know, and not that they were looking for their women to bail them out of every situation, but the fact that as a pair, as an item, as a couple, they complemented each other really well, because those relationships were based and founded on respect. And those men really exhibited that, like, okay, so she's probably going to be right a lot of the time.
Okay.
I'm going to go with that. When I was thinking about these women, I wrote down, like, for B'Elanna, I wrote down caring, smart, undaunted, ingenious, fiercely loyal. And then for Naomi, I wrote down almost the same exact words: caring, empathetic, brilliant, persistent, ingenious, and fiercely loyal. I mean, they both of them have these deep wells of loyalty. Like they that's where they operate from. It's like they find out who their peoples are, and then everything else, all the other choices are made accordingly. You know, they do everything for the people that they love.
Right.
Everything.
So B'Elanna was so Chakotay when that show started that she could not understand, Janeway was now going to be it. And it took her a while to get on the Janeway train. But once she was there, there was nothing.
Shake her. That's right.
Couldn't shake her at all. That was her captain now.
Sorry.
No, I was just saying she had some issues. Like you say, that loyalty was so tough to her captain being Chakotay that transferring it over was just like, oh, I don't think so.
Right. And Naomi, back in Naomi's history, she was fiercely loyal to the Belters and to their cause. Even to the point of loving the man who then became the revolutionary / terrorist leader, and being fiercely loyal to him, until he turned out to be completely abusive and she had to run for her life, but she did.
Yeah, there was that.
There was that, but then when she finds a new family, you can't shake that loyalty and that foundation. And that's really exhibited in those last 3 episodes of season 5 from The Expanse, that she does everything she does is to try to save the crew of the Rocinante, her new family.
That was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. I've never seen anything. You guys know that I always say that it's all the same stories. It's just how they present them. But this was different. I enjoyed I'm glad I looked at it. I wish I would have seen more of it,
Don't worry. You can go back.
No, not that I'm gonna. Don't, no. We're not gonna. I'm not watching 5 seasons of The Expanse. I have Star Trek. There is 800 hours of Star Trek and 4 timelines, I'm good. I'm good. But I won't sit here and say I did not enjoy The Expanse, because I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's totally dope. And what differences did y'all see in them? Like key differences that stood out between the two characters?
I think we touched on it a little bit. It was, B'Elanna's self-hatred versus Naomi being very confident. I thought Naomi, she knew clearly who she was. Even I think when she just didn't know who Marco was. She knew who she was, but she just didn't know who Marco was. So she always knew what she wanted to do. She was getting tricked and betrayed. But B'Elanna had this inward thing that she was just, like we saw it when she got pregnant, and she wanted to erase that Klingon stuff from her child. I mean, she's just, like you said, Yvette, she has a real streak of self-hatred that even Tom was trying to help her get over that. I think that's the biggest difference.
That was so deep. I mean, so many people can relate to that. It was, every time I look at that, I have to, it's cringeworthy. Watching that episode, but it's also something that we all have to look at, because I'm assuming, I know I've had self-hate for especially when I was younger, for many different things, but to look at that and to have to remember that's how I used to feel, and then watch that, it's still kind of cringeworthy, because you have to think about some of the things. You're like, oh, I used to really not like that part about me, and so it's pretty. That is, and I always think about B'Elanna when I remember that. Yep. I think that's why I like her so much, because of all of that stuff that her character brings out of the viewer. But I didn't see, like I said, I didn't see enough to see that. Everything I saw about Naomi was very confident. I saw that in just those few episodes I watched. B'Elanna is extremely confident also when it comes to her work.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to her, that's where you see her lose that confidence.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I loved about Naomi, and I don't think it was Monsters and the Rocket, I think. It's the one where they're on they're trying to get off of Arrow's station again, they're trying to get off Ganymede.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 300 people on this dock, and the ship can only take 50 people. And the people that are on the ship, Naomi being one of them, and Amos and the pilot, they're like, don't open the door. We're not even taking the 50. We got to get out of here, because if we open that door, they're all going to come in here, and we only have enough air for 50. And she puts herself in front of that door. I mean, I can't even watch that episode without tearing up, because
I had so many big tears.
At that
moment.
She's like, "This is not going to happen." So she said, She said, I was on the last ship that left Arrows, and I didn't do enough. That's Naomi. I didn't do enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we've heard B'Elanna say that.
No,
I think we have.
Not yet. No, we never got a chance to. B'Elanna wasn't in a completely sort of parallel sort of situation as Naomi has been in. But in the smaller microcosm, B'Elanna really fought for her crew.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But we didn't have her being like, I'm going to hold back this tide of humanity, and only 52 of you all.
I was like, girl, you're in danger.
You're in danger, girl.
Wow, Naomi, get out of there. She's like, no, I'm going to open the door. No.
Wow.
But I did just really love that about the two of them, that they just really would sacrifice themselves for that crew. Even in Dreadnought, B'Elanna gets in that thing, and she's like, I have to now. First of all, she's the one that caused the whole issue.
Right.
There's that.
Being too smart for our own good.
There it is.
Well, that was one of the things that I was going to say, just to go back really quick before, that was one of the differences that I saw between the two characters. Often, as much as B'Elanna doubted herself, there was also this pride thing that really got in her way, there was and it's like, I can do it, I can do anything, and to the point that, like, not recognizing, being realistic about the limits of her capabilities sometimes, or how her actions were going to affect other people, and that's not an issue that you see with Naomi. Naomi is much more aware. Well, okay. It's not an issue that's in the same way.
In the same way.
No, it's that Naomi did go through a situation where she did what she wanted to do.
Yes, she did.
But it wasn't like out of pride, though.
Right.
B'Elanna makes decisions sometimes based simply on the fact that she knows that she can do it and she wants to do it.
Right.
And damn be the consequences. Now, the situation with Naomi she really felt like she was doing what was the right thing to do.
Yeah. She's too emotional and empathetic, and she's like, why
it wasn't
do you
a prideful thing.
Yeah, it wasn't pride in being an engineer, which is what got B'Elanna in trouble with Prototype, which got B'Elanna in trouble with the Dreadnought, which got B'Elanna in trouble with the other Borg baby, it's like what's the one where they found the Borg thing, and she was gonna, I don't know, she was doing something with it.
One?
Yeah. She always thinks she knows she can, she can figure this out, and she doesn't know that these ramifications. She's not thinking all the way forward about the ramifications of what this is going to do.
Yeah. She's an engineer, she's just trying to fix shit.
I just want to turn it on.
Right.
Sorry, ship.
But I love her anyway. That's my girl, B'Elanna. If B'Elanna, okay, I gotta, I don't know. Either one of them. I would take either one of them I'd take B'Elanna in a firefight, though, any day. That's what
I'd take B'Elanna in a firefight, no doubt.
Yeah.
But if I was like gallivanting through space on Sun Ra's orchestra, and the bus was breaking down, I would want Naomi. I would want Naomi and some
in that specific situation. Yeah.
Is that the first time Sun Ra has been spoken of, or the
and it won't be the last?
I hope it's not the first time, but it certainly won't be the last. That's for sure, because I'm always traveling on Sun Ra's orchestra through them spaceways. We travel the spaceways from planet to planet. All right. Sorry. But one thing I wanted to go back to with B'Elanna that you were mentioning was this self-hate, these parts of ourselves and how we learn self-hate. B'Elanna learned self-hate through growing up as being other in a human world. She was half Klingon. She was other, right? She wasn't the same as everybody else. And you know how kids are. And they learn that from their parents. Like, kids don't automatically know that there's something different. They just like, whatever. Parents are the ones who teach judgment associated with differences, right? And she learned that as a child and had a chip on her shoulder that was huge because she went through some stuff, right? And I see that resonating so much in our lives today as Black women, and our, just on this panel, the varied experiences that the three of us have had growing up based on our backgrounds, and I'm a mixed child and was never at home in one culture or another culture, and was never quite accepted in one or either place, and so I identify a lot with B'Elanna that way. Sure. But it's really interesting to me what the struggles of these women and how they relate to Black women's experiences today. So I wonder what else you might have seen outside of that self-hate, or speak to that self-hate and how it manifests today, or other experiences that you've seen with these two characters that you can relate back to our experiences today.
Well, I think you pretty much said it about B'Elanna, and I can understand that too, because I'm a person that went to all white schools. I was like, one of two Black kids in the school, and so that was an interesting day. And it was fine. You get used to it, but it's a thing. The people don't get how hard it is to be around all these other types of people all day long for years. But what I think about Naomi is that the fact that she was a belter, and the belters always grew up on, zero G, or they have artificial gravity, and so in this story their bones are more brittle. They are not used to 1G or walking around on Earth. And watching Naomi struggle to fit into her Earther's world, wasn't even that Holden was white and Naomi wasn't. It wasn't even that. She was from the belt, he was from Earth. And she loved him, and she was going to do whatever it took to fit into his world, even though it was killing her. She could not do it. And I wonder, that kind of resonated with me watching, trying to date someone that was in another world and trying to be in that world, and just burying yourself and not admitting that you're not happy and you're not having a good time. You just want him to be happy. That really got me. And I think we don't have to go through that kind of crap anymore. And Naomi gave it up, and Holden was like, babe, this is killing you. We got to get out of here. We'll be out. But she didn't say anything. She just suffered through it. And I just thought, how many women have done this number?
Yeah. I mean, I my self-hate is a little different. I mean, I grew up with the name Blackman. And to me, as you know, we all grew up in the 70s, and people weren't happy about being Black in the 70s.
That's right.
So my name, though I was very proud of it, because I come from, people who are very proud of their legacy, and both sides. And I was always taught to love that name and love being Black. And, but I had to deal with people who didn't have. So my self-hate actually came from other people's self-hate of who they are. And they tried to put that on me. And for a while, I think I was trying to fight that, but I did. It was, it was something I had to deal with. Like, I hated my name so much after a while, because, it was like, Black, you're so Black man. I had to deal with that. I mean, it's childish but still, that's something that, I had to, I think it made me a stronger person, but it's something that that is still there, because it was tormenting. I wasn't one to back down from a fight or anything, but, it was a lot of my fights in the schoolyard was because of my last name.
Wow.
And as you can see that I was married, but I still keep my last name. That's how, because of that, I guess that makes me even more proud of that name. It has a lot of history to it, and it's not all good history, but it's not all bad history. It's life. It's what the people that had that name had to do to survive. So, I love that history. I love that. But it's like Balana. I mean, it's my family. It's something that happened that I want to be proud of, but people who had self-hate tried to put that on me, because I guess I was proud of it. I don't think they liked the fact that I was proud of being Black, and I wasn't very dark either at the time, so that didn't help either. So I can, even though it was a totally different situation, I got it. That message rang to me. When she was going through that, especially when she was trying to change her baby, that I cried. I was like, oh my God, why would you want to do that? But then you realize that self-hate is deep, because you don't want that to come. You don't want your child, the person you're bringing into the world, to have that self-hate. And I have children that I make sure that they understand what it's like, because I have mixed children. So their heritage on both sides is very important to me and their father. So, because I don't want them to have self-hate, it's huge. I mean, I think about it now, and I realize how much, it did affect me. And I guess that's why when I watched that one, I cringe, but I never turn it off or anything because
It's a good episode.
It's deep. It's a really deep episode.
And when we have our show that's dedicated to Belana Torres herself, we're going to go deep into that episode.
Yeah, we have to.
Yeah, it's an important episode for all of us. It resonated with all of us on this show. Yeah. And I've listened to some other shows where, coming from other perspectives and people who are from different cultures that don't get it at all. They don't understand what's going on there, and they watched it with a sense of judgment that definitely comes from somebody who has never had to deal with that, with these issues before. So we're definitely going to get to that show and talk about it and go into it, because that needs a sci-fi sister spin.
It does.
You know,
really does.
Sure,
we need to get Roxanne Dawson on here to talk about that show.
That's
what we need.
Roxanne, if you're listening.
And I know you are.
Well, I wanted, one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this show with these two women was especially in the political climate and what we've just gone through in this country with the election that we just had. And, that we Democrats won that election on the backs of Black women, as with many other elections and election cycles that we've gone through. And again, it's rather unsung. So even though we have a Black woman as a vice president in the White House, but needs of Black women and efforts by Black women just often go so completely ignored, and it's kind of similar in my mind, at least, to the efforts of the engineers. Engineers make the ship run and get everybody out of the bad situations, but engineers don't always get the medals. Engineers don't always, aren't necessarily always at the staff briefings. Like engineers aren't getting, people are not throughout Starfleet halls talking about, who's my favorite engineer on the ship, oftentimes they can really be the unsung heroes, and I think it's really vitally important that we have these two women of color, even though in the representation, even though on the show, it's not the issue, that it's not that they're women of color, but for us to see women of color, us and our daughters and our daughters' daughters and everybody else out there, to see these fully capable, intelligent, brilliant women, doing their thing and fighting for what's right and fighting for the people that they love is vitally important, to call it out and say, look at the capabilities, look what these women are capable of, and look who they're doing it for.
Representation matters.
Right. It's everything. I think that, it means so much as to why those two characters are more important to me now. I mean, especially Belana Torres is more important to me now than I recognized her being when Voyager first came out. Voyager is more important to me now than I recognized it being when it first came out.
Yeah, I agree. I think I said this on the last podcast we did, that I was nursing my oldest child when Voyager came out. I would sit on the couch. We would come out of the room her first few months and watch Voyager while I was nursing her. And I never forgot that, because, it was like, wow, these things are all happening at the same time. I'm bringing this little girl into the world, and there's a fully fledged series dedicated to this female captain. It was at that time that was a big deal. It's like, wow, look at this. Yeah, it's still kind of huge if you think about it. And now that same kid is watching Michael Burnham sit on her own. Not me telling her to watch the show. That's a show that she likes, and she's watching that show now. So just like the engineers, I try to keep STEAM in my house to make sure my girls know that that's the way to go. And because I want them to use their brains instead of their looks. And I think that all came from, raising them in a time when girls were really looked at a little differently. Not that it was great, but it's better now. But it definitely got the ball rolling back then. Yeah. And B'Elanna was a big deal. I mean, she actually looked like the people in my house, you know. Right. Janeway didn't, but she was a woman and she was a captain, and we were okay with that, you know. But B'Elanna was there, and that made a difference. You know, that helped along because at least there was somebody smart and capable on that ship that the little girls in my house could look at and say, "Oh, I look like her."
Mm-hmm. And what I loved about these two characters too is that both Roxanne Dawson and Dominique Tipper are gorgeous women. Yeah, but it's never that's never the thing, you know. Right, it's that their brains, their strength, their empathy, all these other characteristics. Even though they listen, I wanted Naomi's hair. I wanted that haircut.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my god!
I want that hair.
I even want the tats. That's the only tat I would ever have. That neck tat of Naomi's. I would do that. I would do that. But you know, these women came out and they are just like, yeah. And that's what I like about it, because a lot of times when you have really, really smart women in a show, they are geeky. They are not attractive. They cannot deal in society. They're like, you know, Big Bang kind of thing going on. And these women have, like you said, they're messy. They got guys after them. You know, they're gorgeous. They can handle their business. They also just happen to be freaking brilliant. You know? So that's what I loved about them. They were complete. And, you know, they could go up against any other person on that ship and get the geeky guy, get Boy Scout.
Right. Just like if they usually they put a guy in that role, you know, the guy who saves the ship. The guys that save the ship aren't geeky looking. They're gorgeous. You know, they're, Captain Kirk looking, Superman looking guys, you know. So if you're going to save the ship, you got to look good. So that's what I like about that. You know?
my trip on Enterprise.
Hey,
Trip. I love you, Tripper.
So let me ask you guys. You all right?
I'm all right.
You need a moment?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Because we got, okay, all right.
I say that and then I think about Miles O'Brien. Sorry.
I was just thinking that.
Sorry.
I was looking at you like, okay. I see what you're saying, but
nobody's cuter than Geordie LaForge. I don't know.
Well, you got that right.
Hey.
Nobody's cuter than LeVar Burton, period.
Oh my God.
As he ages,
hey.
what?
Hey.
He is looking fine.
Hey, ma'am, let me tell you. I was looking at him the other day. I was like, oh, dang. He just aged like a wine. I mean, everybody on that show just aged very well. I don't know if they all
with the salt and pepper. It just looks good, LeVar. You looking good. I know you're listening.
I tell you, the Sci-Fi Sisters, you got to think about engineers.
We do. Yeah. We like smart boys
real good,
and women. We like smart boys and girls.
Oh, we like smart boys. I like smart boys.
So I got a question for you guys. One last question before we really wrap this thing up. These women that we get to see on television, B'Elanna Torres, these characters, B'Elanna Torres and Naomi Nagata, Uhura's legacy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all Uhura's legacy. I mean, like I always said, she came first. So everybody stands on her shoulders.
And she went back to Starfleet Academy and she recruited these people.
Right.
That's right.
Right. No, Nichelle Nichols recruited all of them back in 2000 whatever, and that's how they all started from there.
And I'm saying that the horror went back.
Right.
She recruited these. B'Elanna said, "I want to be like Lieutenant.
I want to be just like at that
Lieutenant Commander.
She might have been
Admiral.
No, she might have been the president fleet from.
That's right. Okay.
From Picard's autobiography.
Come on, Yvette, give us the non-canon book stuff.
She's the Federation president by time.
That's right. It did say that she was.
So
the Federation president.
This is all Uhura's legacy. Thank you very much.
That's right. And that's why I brought it up, because without Gene Roddenberry putting a character like Uhura in the center of that screen, right behind the captain. And without making her so capable and smart and understanding of all these ship systems and and a little bit of an engineer herself, you know, we would not have Naomi Nagata, and we would not have B'Elanna Torres without her. Absolutely.
Great.
You know, and I really urge you all, if you haven't been a fan of Voyager, or if you have not been a fan of The Expanse, if for no other reason than to become familiar with these two characters, that you should give them some time and watch them, because they are wonderful. And I think it's been a great discussion today on these two characters, and a great intro. I mean, we really wanted to do this because we know that we're going to have shows dedicated to both of these women on their own later on, but we love showing them together and combining a show with these two franchises that are so wonderful, but yet so different, and so much the same in so many ways too. So that's been a blast to cross streams like that, and this has been a really fun discussion. I really appreciate you guys.
It has. I enjoyed it.
Thank you for watching the shows, Yvette.
Oh, no worries. I mean, just as long as you don't expect me to watch 5 seasons.
I do not.
Thank you very much. But I did enjoy it. I definitely would probably watch. If we do a show on Naomi, I would definitely watch more.
Awesome. We're going to hold you to that, by the way. Listeners, you heard that, right? And also, listeners, if you have favorite B'Elanna or Naomi episodes that you want to discuss with us, or you heard something on the show that you'd like to discuss with us, how, Yvette, can you reach out and do that?
Well, you can find us on SyFysistas.com. That's SyFysistas.com. Or you can join the mothership, which is MUTHASHIP, and the Sci-Fi Sisters Book Club, both on Facebook. On Instagram, we're sci-fi.sisters. We're also on Twitter at Sci-Fi Sisters.
Thank you.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. And, we're proud members of the Trek Geek Network, so you can also find us at trekgeeks.com. And we just want to give a shout out to the baddest engineer in the universe, Dose the Anonymous.
Dose. You know how we do about engineers.
Hey, that's a sexy one. He's anonymous, but I know who he is.
All right, there you go. That's the bridge crew right there.
That's what I'm talking about. And you can find him. He's responsible for all the music you hear on our podcast, and as well as our engineering. And you can find him at dosetheanonymous1@gmail.com. That's DOSTHEANONYMOUS1@gmail.com. So with that, y'all, I want to say ciao.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. It's been a great show. Peace, love, and hair grease.